Good morning. You're listening to the Conservative Cat Show. We've got so much to get to this morning. Already in the chat, La Resistance. Good morning, Cat. Enjoying my cup of Patriot Pump now. You can join La Resistance. I love the username. I don't know why. I love that username. You can join him and get your bottle of Patriot Pump today. It's a premium pre-workout available at patriotpumpenergy.com, and you can use the promo code ConservativeCat at checkout for $10 off. It's the best promo code out there. We've got Maduro reappearing. Maduro has resurfaced, I guess. So Trump is calling a meeting. I'm not happy about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she actually threw out an X post, and I have to agree with her to an extent. Focus on Americans, focus on American healthcare, not regime change in Venezuela. But it's more complicated, more complex than that, as is always the case. But Trump, he is calling for an all hands on deck meeting. He, I think, had it last night. And it's a meeting on Venezuela. I'd hate to see a regime change over there. I don't think it's likely. I'd hate to see us go into like some sort of war over there. What Trump has been doing up to this point has, been good, and I'm supportive of that. Bombing these and striking these Venezuelan drug boats that are coming to the United States. But going in there and doing a regime change, it's just so exhausting. Like, let these countries, these silly countries fail. These socialist, communist, dictator-run countries fail. I don't really care about them. Now, it does start to bother me. These countries start to bother me when they start shipping fentanyl, cocaine, opioids over to the United States, and we've got to stop that. And I think Donald Trump has taken the appropriate strategy up to this point. We'll see. We'll have to see what comes out of this all hands on deck meeting. I do want to talk about this because I talked about it a lot yesterday, how we have to preserve our culture here in the West. And, coming right off of Thanksgiving, the Pilgrims, how they fled the Church of England and religious persecution, and how our Western Judeo-Christian values have kind of derived from, the Pilgrims, Christopher Columbus, prior to that, and, 1776, American Revolution, don't tax us, Brits, we've got this American spirit, and we're losing that because of this multiculturalism. Not all cultures are equal, and this is evidence of that. We talked a lot about that yesterday, but here is the evidence. You have this father and a couple of sons. They are facing up to 25 years for an honor killing. And their defense here is going to make your blood boil. So we'll get to that. Plus, a doctor who's running for Illinois Congress is blasting Governor J.B. Pritzker, and he says that Governor J.B. Pritzker is the real public health emergency. Yeah, we're going to get to all of it. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Before we get to all of that, I did kind of want to skip. I was going to save this for the end, but I figured I'd open up the show with it before we get into anything too heavy this morning. We got a lot of stuff to cover. So, buying a new car, not financially wise, okay? If it was a smart thing to do with money, I would do it. I did buy, it wasn't a new car, it was used, slightly used, but I got a great deal on it. I drive a Ford Bronco. I am a Chevy girl. I used to be a Chevy girl. I had a Chevy Colorado. I was traveling on I-55, southbound or northbound, headed into Bloomington, and it was just black ice. It wasn't even all that cold outside. It was one of those days where we had some rain, and then it got cold, then it warmed up again, and I thought that the ice would be gone. I was driving like 70 down the highway, went over this little bridge right there by the Ferrero plant in Bloomington, Illinois, and I spun out, crashed my Chevy truck. Really was upset by that, but I wound up with a Ford Bronco. Love my Ford Bronco. It's a Ford Bronco Sport. Buying a new car, not financially the smartest thing to do. A lot of people in America, they just get into exorbitant amounts of debt for no reason and buy cards that they can't afford. I got a sick deal on it. It was cheaper than anything else out on the lot. I got like a 1% interest rate because it was during like Christmas around this time actually. And they gave me like a 1% interest rate or something silly on it. So I was like, heck yeah, I'll get me a Ford Bronco Sport. So it's not it wasn't a brand new car at the time. But I want to talk about this Chevy commercial. You know, it really got me in the feels this morning. I like teared up a little bit, and I don't know if it's the pregnancy hormones or what, but no, it got me in the feels. And I'm guessing whoever pitched this isn't your typical living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan marketing person. Okay. This is somebody who actually understands understands what appeals to real Americans. This commercial is unique and exceptional, but it shouldn't be. Okay, we shouldn't have these marketing people who live on the Upper West Side and are so detached from what normal Americans like and, you know, relate to. So I want to play this. This is about a few minutes long, but I don't know if you've already seen it. It's good stuff. I'll play the full 3 minutes and then give you my reaction. Throw it in the comment section. You know, there's different stages of this family's journey. I want you to throw it in the comment section what stage you're in. You'll see what I mean once you watch it.
Found it.
Are we feeding an army?
Pies are in the fridge. Hon, did you get the casseroles?
Yeah, back seat.
So let's go. Come on, careful, careful, careful.
Where's the dog?
I got my hands full here.
Willie! Don't keep all the good stuff to yourself.
I was just thinking about the first time that we did this drive. The great diaper explosion of 1992. Uh-oh, the Christmas tree farm.
Don't even.
Is the one you want?
I climbed the tree to see the world.
You got it?
Got it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Built a home for you.
You actually said, I will
Turn this car around right now.
I was going to.
Yeah.
Dad, we gotta go. Dad, there's somebody, please.
The last time we did this together, you remember?
I don't want to go back to college.
It's okay. It's going to be okay.
He doesn't even like me.
That guy's not even cool enough for you anyway.
By the cracks of his skin, I climb to the top. I climb the tree to see the world.
They never made it easy, did they?
Well, did you want it to be easy?
No. I wanted it to be just like it was.
Oh.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad.
Hello. Oh, no. You guys just get in?
Yeah. Who's this little guy? This is Waylon. You look like an old friend of mine.
Come on in. It's freezing out here. Yeah. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
Climb to the sea. I climbed the tree to see.
All right. I gotta stop it before I start tearing up. I know you're crying. Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We wanted to play that for you early this morning before I get into anything too heavy. It's only a matter of time before the left Sydney Sweeney's this. The TikTokers will get out there and start attacking the car company, I'm sure. And then after the TikTokers attack the car company, the ideologues, the ideological colleagues of the TikTokers, the journalismers, they will get out there and start creating content and journalisming content about the said TikTok videos, and they'll blast the company for this commercial. I'm sure too many conservatives are enjoying the commercial and sharing the commercial, which means the media and the left, I repeat myself, they're the same thing, will find something wrong with it just because conservatives really like it. So, yeah, they'll find something wrong with it. And, because having a family, taking this journey, and being in the various stages of life is just right coded, and it's alt-right or whatever they'll call it. It just hit me in the feels, this one. I don't know what part of the journey you are at right now, or what part, like what stage you're at. I am about ready to enter in the great diaper explosion stage. So I'm pretty excited about that. Other members of my family. What really got me was the college stage, because I was just coming out of that one. The kids in the back seat, they're about college age, and she says, I don't want to go to college. And then the brother in the back seat says, you're too good for him anyways. Reminded me of my twin brother. I just got out of that stage, and now I'm entering into the diaper explosion stage. But members of my family, they're going to my brother's house, my house, for Christmas, first time stage. And it's a stage that, I can see myself eventually. I'm not there yet, but eventually. And, going to your kids' house for Christmas. Not everybody really wants to get to that. They want to get to that stage, but they don't. And, you're rapidly approaching that stage of life, and you don't want to admit that. And I don't know if I'm ready for, that. And it kind of reminds me, or, this commercial, hey, take time to remember what this time of year is all about. Take time to remember, the reason for the season, Jesus Christ, your family. The holidays should be a reminder to slow down and appreciate what's important and what God has given you. And even the part with the dog. And you guys know I'm more of a cat person. I have a dog. She's crazy. But the dog, and then the kid gets the dog. The boy, he grows up and gets his own dog. Like, I needed a moment to myself there for a second. I was like, oh man, this is really getting me in the feels. But Chevy totally nailed it with this. And I get it. They did it in the name of selling cars. But they really, shared a reminder with all of us that family is a journey, and this life is a journey, and we should really slow down and take time to appreciate all that God has given us. I just love the commercial. So I wanted to share that with you before we get into today's top stories. Smash that like button. What stage of the journey are you on? Are you the diaper explosion stage, kids gone off to college stage, visiting your kids' house for Christmas for the first time this year? Throw it in the comment section. I'd love to know. Let's talk about the Venezuelan president, El Presidente, Nicolas Maduro. He has reappeared after not being, out there in the public eye for several days. And you might think, okay, why does that matter? Well, rumors were spreading that he had fled the country with his family, and he did this in compliance with President Donald Trump's demand. Okay, so some background. Donald Trump gave the Venezuelan dictator, Nicolas Maduro, allegedly, reportedly, a strongly worded ultimatum. And, the tensions have been flaring. with this South American nation for quite some time. I've talked about the Venezuelan drug boat operation. Democrats, the Seditious Six, have come out and said that that operation is somehow illegal and Trump is giving illegal orders by issuing these strikes. Not true. We're not at war with them. You definitely need to go to Congress if you want to declare war. They're just operation strikes. Obama did that. George Bush. Okay. We don't need to get into the history there. Presidents issuing strikes. We're not at war with them yet. I hope that's not, in the cards that Trump's got here. I'm not stoked about the idea of regime change in Venezuela and us being a part of that. But according to a bombshell report, Trump told Maduro to resign and leave or else. So during a call allegedly between Donald Trump and Maduro, the socialist president demanded that he be allowed to maintain control of the Venezuelan military if he paved the way for free elections there. And Maduro also sought in this phone call, apparently, according to Miami Herald, they cited sources. I don't know how much of this is true. What exactly goes on in the phone calls between President Donald Trump and Maduro? He's not going to say out of national security reasons. But I guess Maduro also asked for global amnesty for his alleged crimes. So Trump actually refused all of it. He said, nope, I don't want you maintaining control of Venezuela's military, even with the promise of free elections. Which, I mean, I don't really care. I don't give a damn if they have free elections or not over there. If you guys want to run your hellhole and you want to be a dictator, yes, I feel bad for the people of Venezuela. They absolutely hate Nicolas Maduro. Don't believe what you see on the internet. The people can't stand Nicolas Maduro, and they're all suffering there because guess what? It's a dictatorship. It's a communism. Okay. People flee communism. Just talk to there's a huge population of Venezuelans in Florida. And just talk to anybody who's fled communism. They don't love it. Okay. So Trump said, I'm going to refuse all of it. I don't want to give you amnesty for your crimes. I don't want you to maintain. What I want you to do is leave now or else. So apparently that's the phone call they had. Like I said, I'm not in the room with the president. You're not in the room with the president. Most of the media isn't in the room. The media isn't in the room with the president. So we'll have to see what exactly plays out here after this all hands on deck strategy meeting was called yesterday at, I think it was 5 p.m. Eastern time. So the pair's talks quickly broke down with a United States politician just a couple of days ago talking about the ongoing war. Okay, so you have a United States politician referring to what's going on with United States and Venezuela as war. I wouldn't refer to it as that. And I'm not stoked about U.S. politicians labeling it that. I think that it's very unlikely that we do a regime change there, or that we go into Venezuela and take it over. I don't foresee that happening, but our aggression has really amped up over the last few days. And it's because they won't stop. And here's really what it is. It's China, fentanyl. They are using Venezuela. Venezuela isn't a real country. This is like a proxy. If Donald Trump wants to hurt Venezuela or Nicolas Maduro, or if he wants to, stick it to him, what he needs to do is dig his heels into his economic policy and stick it to China with these tariffs. I'd rather see him do that than go in there with the United States military and do some sort of regime change there. I'm just sick and tired of getting into wars that we have no business getting into. Now, this is where it's tricky because this war, as a U.S. politician coined it, I wouldn't say that we're at a war with Venezuela. We're striking boats that are coming into the United States that are loaded with fentanyl. And he's done this under the Enemy Aliens Act. He included the Venezuelan gang TDA, Trenday Guagua, as a foreign enemy. And he amended the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. And this allows President Donald Trump to issue strikes against those enemies. So I wouldn't say it's an ongoing war, but Dave McCormick does. So he's a Republican from Pennsylvania, and he says we have a war that's coming through fentanyl, opioids, and cocaine. And he was referring to, of course, the avalanche of drugs that have been pouring into the United States from Venezuela. And Trump is blaming Maduro for that. And he is to blame. Yes. He went as far as United States politician Dave McCormick to say that this war between two sides has been deadlier than Vietnam for his state, is already deadlier than Vietnam for his state. And I believe it. Okay, that people are dying. I have family members, several family members who have succumbed to addiction and have lost their lives over fentanyl, opioids, cocaine. I've seen it very up close and personal. We have to stop the drugs pouring in. Okay, and this is what Donald Trump is doing with these strikes. So the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, he finally appeared in public, okay, for the first time in 5 days. And, this put an end to the speculation that he had fled the country. Apparently, there was this phone call between Donald Trump and Maduro where Trump said, leave now or else. And he gave him kind of an ultimatum. So he's still in the country, Maduro. He presented prizes and gave remarks at an annual coffee awards ceremony in the eastern part of the capital, Caracas, I think it's the capital of Venezuela. Okay, and he gave remarks in the eastern part of the capital, and this is what CNN had reported. And at one point during this little reward ceremony, okay, South American Coffee, this is a annual coffee award ceremony. At one point during the award ceremony, yes, there was a chant that broke out. And they were chanting indestructible, untouchable, unbeatable. And this is what they were referring to Venezuela's economy. They were saying it's indestructible, it's untouchable, it's unbeatable. Yeah. Okay. Whatever you say, Venezuela. Yeah. The only economy is the drugs and the money that are coming in. Shipping the drugs over, collecting that money, bringing it back for the rich and the elite and the dictator, Nicolas Maduro, so they can have gold toilets or whatever, and the rest of the country is starving. Okay, so if that's what you mean by indestructible, untouchable, unbeatable, okay, yeah, as far as your economy goes, yeah, it's indestructible. The wealth of the elite in Venezuela, it's indestructible because you guys make it that way through force and through criminal activity. But anyway, prior to the awards ceremony, we didn't know much about Maduro's whereabouts. He had posted a video of himself last week on Wednesday where he was driving to the capital of Venezuela, and he posted it on his Telegram channel. So this whole chant about Venezuela's economy, him appearing in public at this award ceremonies, could be seen as an act of aggression, could be seen that way by President Donald Trump and the Trump administration. And Maduro could be trying to make a point by appearing in public in a reply almost to President Donald Trump, pressuring him to step down and leave the country. So you know how that might piss off President Donald Trump, and that might escalate things with Venezuela. And I don't want to see that. I like how Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said, hey, we got to focus on healthcare, not regime change in Venezuela. But it's more complicated, complex than that, because we have United States citizens dying because of the fentanyl, the drugs that are pouring in. But really, it's not Venezuela. And like Nicolas Maduro is just kind of a pawn in all of it. I think that the fentanyl and the drugs are actually being manufactured, shipped. The supplier here is China. If Donald Trump really wants to bring down the drugs, what he should do is focus on economic strategy and tariffs and beating China. I don't know how I feel about, the tax credits to AI, data centers, Meta. You got President Donald Trump cozying up to these tech bros. They want to beat China in AI. And I don't know if that's something we should put all our eggs in, that basket. But we'll have to see. He needs to focus on the economy and terror and getting China to no longer be the world's, economic power. And he's been doing a great job. I think that we're playing around with Venezuela. If we were to just focus on our economic strategy here as far as China goes, the cards will kind of fall where they may. Venezuela, I don't think we'd have to worry about them so much if we cut off their life support, okay, which is China. So apparently Maduro hasn't left Venezuela. And that's not surprising. This is just repeating history. It's not a surprise. The sudden departure of dictators from Latin American countries is historically not gone well for former dictators. Okay. So, I'm not surprised that Maduro is still there. President Donald Trump has called a meeting at the White House. Expected attendees, because they already had this meeting, I think, last night. Pete Hegseth, you had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane. You had Secretary of State Marco Rubio. You had the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. You had the Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller. So Trump has upped diplomatic, economic, and military pressure on Nicolas Maduro's regime. And he, has issued warnings, said leave or else. He's expanded U.S. military deployments there. He's getting aggressive, Donald Trump. He's issued more deployments in the Caribbean. And he also, a sharply worded directive from Donald Trump cautioned airlines, pilots, and criminal networks to avoid Venezuelan airspace. So he's saying, hey, we're going to be dominating the airspace over there. Trump, he likes to play 4D chess. Okay, he took to Truth Social a few weeks ago, said that he was going to do a regime change over there or threatened a regime change. I don't know what exactly he's doing. It's hard to tell because he's a 4D chess kind of guy. So, Trump personally told Maduro, reports say, hey, Maduro, leave, to protect yourself and your family. Now, usually that doesn't go so well. History tells us when dictators flee their country, they are found and killed. So they have to answer for their crimes anyway. So I wasn't expecting Maduro to leave the country. I don't think Trump really was. I think he was just kind of talking. But reporters, while Trump was walking on Air Force One this weekend, they had asked if he had spoken to Maduro, and the answer was yes. He had spoken to Maduro personally, but he declined to elaborate what those talks were actually about, whether he had asked Maduro to leave the country. So there's no statement from the White House right now as to what the next steps are going to be if we're going to dominate the airspace. But we can definitely look at the cards on the table here. both military and diplomatic measures. There's indications that those are military operations are going to escalate. There's possible diplomatic measures that might take place. The United States has staged, up to this point, significant military forces into that area, into the Caribbean Sea space. An actual invasion in South America, in this South American nation, I don't know. It seems unlikely. Like I said, the American forces have deployed, already deployed, could easily take over that country, invade. They could gain control of the skies really quickly, and we'd shut down Venezuela. We'd be able to pull it all off. I'm not concerned about that at all. But do I want it to happen? Absolutely not. I'm pretty sick and tired of regime changes and changes and getting into war. But I understand that we have to do something about the drug problem. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she said, let's focus on health insurance. Or health insurance in this country and health coverage. Yeah, I want America first. We need to get those drug prices down. We need to make healthcare more affordable. But the reason why, part of the reason why healthcare is so unaffordable is because these big pharma is, tacking up the cost and everything because of the government subsidies. And we need to get these government subsidies out, which is what Marjorie Taylor Greene is for. But big pharma gets you hooked on drugs, and then you leave the hospital, you get hooked on drugs for something like back pain, or you have some sort of surgery, and then you're addicted to those pharmaceuticals, and then you turn to things like fentanyl, opioids, cocaine. If we don't get this under control, we're not going to have people living, to address and addressing healthcare is a moot point at that point. We have to have our people alive. So it's more complicated and complex than I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is making it. I don't think regime change is an answer. Doing what he's been doing with the drug bombing and the striking, and really focusing on cutting off the artery here, which is China, for Venezuela. We know it's Chinese fentanyl. We know they're the ones manufacturing it. If we were to choke China off economically, then we wouldn't have to deal with Venezuela and their petty little drug running games. Go after the supplier, not the drug runner. Venezuela is just the drug runner. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Maduro himself could be a target, that he gets killed or he has to answer to his crimes, or answer for his crimes. He may be seized, brought to the United States, face criminal charges, and 14 other Venezuelan government officials were indicted back in 2020 on charges of narco-terrorism, corruption, and drug trafficking. So this isn't unheard of, right? Obtaining government officials, charging them, indicting them. You're trafficking the drugs via the boats and coming to the United States. That's our jurisdiction. We've got to make sure I'd be all right with that. But going in there by force, dominating the airspace, I don't know. That's probably a little too much for me. I don't want to get into the situation where this is just an endless war, and it's with a country that is kind of not even all that important. If you really want to stop the drugs, choke off China economically. They've got their eggs in this AI basket. I think that they're trying to beat China in AI. I don't know if that's the right move. We'll have to see. It's a developing situation, and I'm going to continue to update you as events warrant. But your thoughts, throw it in the comments section. I'll get to your thoughts here in just a second. I do want to get to this story before we get to your comments. always send super chats, super stickers. Love that. Love when you guys support the program. But I really love when you guys get your bottle of Patriot Pump pre-workout. Now, unlike Big Pharma, we're not trying to get you addicted to our product, which is why we strategically didn't put exorbitant amounts of caffeine in this pre-workout. Most pre-workouts you'll see have like 300 milligrams of caffeine, which is just an exorbitant amount. It's unnecessary. We pair our caffeine with some black pepper extract to get you through your day and make the caffeine work for you. Okay. And you don't crash. You don't have that crazy amount of sugar in there. You've got L-citrulline. You got creatine. This is a great alternative to the sugary drinks you get on the shelves at the gas station, and it's cheaper, especially when you use promo code Conservative Cat. So support the program. Let's dig into this story. Like I talked about a lot yesterday, the show's archived for you. You guys can go smash the like button, share it out with your friends. Do that here as well and subscribe. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers. I want to get there before Christmas. If you guys could just have one friend subscribe today, that would mean the world to me. But Americans, we have always prided ourselves on being a melting pot. And I challenged you guys yesterday. I said, hey, we shouldn't be the melting pot of the world anymore. Western culture is superior. And the Pilgrims understood that. Christopher Columbus understood that. Those who fought in the American Revolution, 1776, understood that the American spirit was superior than any other, spirit or culture out there. And they wanted their own. And over the years, we've kind of become a melting pot. And we've always celebrated that. And it never used to really be a problem. This used to be a place where, and it is a place where people come and they immigrate here because, America, it's the melting pot. And, the melting pot has created really cool things, you can get Chinese food here. You can see all kinds of people. There's a lot of diversity. It's really cool. The food, the music, the customs of people from around the world, being blended together in this, American culture that we know today. And it's beautiful in many ways. But, in a post 9/11 era, I think it's safe to say that some practices of part of the world in a post-Biden opening the borders world, I think it's safe to say that we shouldn't welcome everybody and that not all cultures are equal and not all cultures are compatible with Western and American values. Okay, and I don't think that's racist to say. Multiculturalism is a scam. Some cultures are superior to others. Okay, that's just factual, and this is evidence of that. This 18-year-old girl, she's a Syrian Muslim girl. She was tied up with tape, drowned in a ditch in the Netherlands. Okay, and she was drowned by her father and her two brothers. Okay, and it was all because she had removed her hijab and she was too westernized. Okay, so they were arrested, the brothers and the father, and they are defending themselves, and their defense here is going to make your blood boil. They're defending themselves and claiming that this was an honor killing, and this is part of their culture. You see, we can't allow this stuff here. And somebody had in the comment section said yesterday, well, I'm okay with cultures as long as they follow the law. Well, culture, everything is downstream of culture. If they're, partaking in this culture where honor killings are a thing, they're never going to follow the law. So in May of 2024, 18-year-old Ryan El Najjar, a native from Syria, she went missing in the Netherlands. So 6 days after she was reported missing, her body was found in a lake in the northern part of the country. Her hands and feet were bound. It was a horrific story. And El Najjar, this girl's father, and her brothers are now being prosecuted for her murder, and they could face up to 25 years in prison. But the worst part is that the defense here, the brothers' defense, is that it's just part of their culture. And sadly, the reason for the heinous crime here is not anything unheard of or new. The reason for this crime, they, some cultures, they don't see drinking as bad. I talked about it biblically, all scattered throughout the Bible. Drunkenness is condemned and it's frowned upon. Don't be drunk. In other cultures, it's not that way, which is why you see, I hate to say it, Mexicans getting behind wheels of vehicle, 18-wheelers, or Indians getting behind wheels of 18-wheelers, get the wheel of an 18-wheeler, a semi-truck, getting a CDL from one of these blue states, and they're drunk or intoxicated, and they're driving a vehicle. It's because in other countries, it's not seen as bad to get behind the wheel of a vehicle drunk. We've got decades, really century, probably, decades of, it all started with the Prohibition, right, in 1920. We've always looked at alcohol as a, hey, don't get drunk. Definitely don't get behind the wheel of a car here in America. Not to say that people don't drink and drive here in America, and Americans don't do that. They definitely do. But it's definitely looked down upon here in the country. And, the reason for this heinous crime is not new. Honor killings are a thing. They don't see it as wrong because it is their culture. We see it as wrong because our culture derives from the Judeo-Christian Bible, and there's several things in there about thou shalt not murder. Okay. There's all kinds of things about drunkenness. I could go on and on. Just check out Leviticus, and that's kind of where all of our culture derives from and our laws. But El-Najjar's father and her brothers believed that her lifestyle was too westernized. Okay, she didn't wear like this burqa in public. She posted a TikTok video of herself wearing makeup, and she had no head covering on. Authorities believe that her brothers, Muhammad and Munnandad, lured her to the country, and they took her to a secluded location, and her father, Khaled, joined the sons in her murder, El-Najjar's murder. So Dutch prosecutors are seeking a 25-year sentence for El-Najjar's father, who immediately fled to Syria. So he's not even in the Netherlands. He's not facing prosecution, really. He's facing it. He's going to be tried in absence, which means he doesn't have to be there for trial. They're going to try him without him actually being there. And he fled to Syria, and he kind of left his sons kind of holding the bag for the killing. Okay, so both brothers say they weren't involved, and they claim that the father did it alone, and that they murdered, or that he murdered the girl alone, his daughter alone. Now, yesterday I talked a lot about Europe. Europe is kind of like a case study where they have multiculturalism policies, and they've allowed millions of Middle Eastern immigrants into European countries, and it hasn't really worked out for them. And this is one of those situations where I say, take note, America, take a page out of their book. Look at this case study. Okay. As of November 2024, roughly there are 900 no-go zones in Europe, across Europe. What are no-go zones? Well, these are neighborhoods where if you're a woman, if you're gay, if you're Jewish, if you're white, if you're not part of the Muslim community ethnically, you are likely going to die. These are what no-go zones are. Okay, you might want to think twice going into these no-go zones. That's actually a term. There's about 900 of them in Europe, across Europe. Okay, so closer to home here in the United States, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Like what's going on in Dearborn, Michigan is fascinating because it's not even American politics anymore. It's just tribalism. There's two different tribes and they're kind of going at it. And they're using I think it's the mayoral race there to kind of go at it. And this is a city with majority Muslim population. And look, I'm not anti-Muslim, okay? I'm not racist against the Muslims or prejudice or whatever you want to call it. Jesus died for the Muslims. You know, I actually went to a Bible study and these were missionaries and they were talking about how, you know, the extremist Islamist Muslims, whatever you call them, they burned down this Christian church and it was really traumatic for the young Christians that had built this church from the ground up. And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, man, this is awful. And like, how dare they? And then something just really struck a chord with me in that Bible study with those two missionaries. They were like guest speakers at this church I went to. And they said, well, Jesus died for the Muslims too. And that's what we had to really try to ingrain into, because there's a lot of hatred that these young Christians have or Christians have in Indonesia and these parts of the world. So I'm not anti-Muslim, but there's reality. Okay. And non-Muslim residents in Dearborn, Michigan have complained, and they actually complained at a recent city council meeting about a local mosque using an outdoor loudspeaker for daily calls to prayer. And they begin often at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. Okay, no-go zones, mosque loudspeakers. Granted, this is hardly as extreme as in honor killing. This honor killing of El Najjar. I'm not trying to compare the two because one's way more extreme than the other. But, you know, it starts out with the mosque loudspeakers, the 5:30 calls to prayer. Then it goes to the no-go zones. Then we're going to see the honor killings. And honor killings have already made it to our shores here in the United States. This is from a while ago in St. Louis. In 1989, you had a 16-year-old girl. Her name was Tina Issa. She was murdered by her Palestinian father, Zain Issa, for becoming too westernized. Okay, they think their culture is superior. Why in the world would we not think our culture is superior? Okay, they think that it's so superior that you should die if you abandon said culture. Okay, they think that their culture is that superior. Tina, she had gotten a part-time job. She had gone to her junior prom, snuck out of the house to go to her junior prom. She had a boyfriend. And this is everything that her parents disapproved of. And her murder was discovered because the FBI actually bugged the dad's phone, bugged the dad's house, the apartment, actually. And it was because Zain Issa, the father, had ties to the Abu Nidal organization. So this is an extremist organization, and they had bugged his house, the FBI, and they actually caught the entire murder on tape in the house. So in 2022, there was also this case. So more recently than 1989, in 2022, an Egyptian man in Texas was convicted of killing his two daughters because, as a Muslim, he was upset that they had boyfriends and were dating. In their culture, things like arranged marriages are a thing. Okay. In their culture, things like child brides are a thing. Things that we don't really approve of here in the United States. It's all kind of derived by the Judeo-Christian Bible. And there's no doubt there's a debate to be had here about assimilation and how we go about that, how we enforce assimilation on immigrants in the United States, and do it in a just, fair way. Okay. But this has got to be something we are persistent on and insist on: assimilation. And you have got to want to be an American, not want to be in America. Okay, there's two very different things. You have got to want to be an American. Okay, this is an American culture, an American society built on Judeo-Christian values, and we value life. Okay, if your culture includes honor killings, perhaps you shouldn't bring it here, and we shouldn't allow it here. Smash that like button, share this share this out with your friends. We are going to be right back. I'm going to get to your comments, and then we're going to get to this doctor who's running for Illinois Congress. And there's this latest report that was dropped. It's called the Maternal Mortality Data Report. Okay. And the headlines are explosive, not because the state has found solutions for maternal mortality, but because the government, the government thinks that an answer to 91% preventable deaths. Okay. The Democrats here in the state think that the answer is more bureaucracy, more social programs and experiments, Pritzker branded social experiments. And 91 of these maternal mortalities or maternal deaths are preventable, 91% of them. And we're not finding solutions really for these things. We're just coming up with social experiments. So we're going to get to that here in just a little bit. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'll be right back.
Check your blind spots. Men love to call things out. Weakness, hypocrisy, failure. We're wired to spot threats and take action. But Jesus didn't say, never judge. He said, judge not, that you be not judged. Why? Because judgment without humility is a trap. It turns you into a sniper with a log jammed in your eye. Matthew 7 hits hard. Jesus calls out a man who sees a speck in his brother's eye, but ignores the plank in his own. He's not saying, don't correct. He's saying, clean your lens first. Self-examination before confrontation. It takes guts to get real with your own sin, to admit you've gone soft, to face your pride, lust, laziness, or bitterness head on. But that's what real men do. They sharpen themselves before they sharpen others. Jesus didn't just want behavior police. He wanted heart warriors, men who get the plank out, then humbly help a brother see clearly. Men who don't just flex spiritual authority, but walk with spiritual maturity. In verse 6, it's about discernment. Don't toss holy things to pigs. Don't waste truth on ears that mock it. Know when to speak. Know when to walk away. Before you blast through your next workout, check your form. Same with life. Patriot Pump fuels clean, focused energy, but you've still got to show up. Power with purpose. Clarity with strength. That's how you train. That's how you lead.
Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. A couple of your comments, go ahead and send them. In the chat, we've got lots of things to balance out. Internal security, the economy, trade, and much more. I feel like he's doing well considering that, given that the country was in such bad shape. Yeah, I was a little critical of President Donald Trump. I don't want to see regime change in Venezuela. I don't want to see us dominate the airspace there and be even more aggressive militarily. I hope we can reach some sort of diplomatic solution and go about this diplomatically rather than using the military, perhaps arresting Maduro for his crimes. I would be all right with that. Other government officials, we did it back in 2020 for crimes like drug trafficking and trafficking drugs here. Like I said, I think that the solution here might be to just choke off China economically. And that is what Donald Trump is doing. He's already been doing that with tariffs and trade. and working that massaging that economic policy. And he's putting his eggs into the AI basket, which I'm kind of nervous about because he wants to beat Donald Trump, or wants to beat China at AI. And I hope that's the right move. I don't know if the country was in terrible shape. So you're so right. I think that he's doing a great job overall. We are going to get to his no tax on tips policy because here in the state of Illinois has not adopted that provision of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And I'm going to tell you what that means for you here in just a couple of minutes after I get to this story. The maternal mortality data report was released, and the headlines are explosive. Not because the government here in the state of Illinois found solutions, not because they are, finally getting serious about maternal mortality, where women die in birth, women die in pregnancy, or children die at birth, or children die in pregnancy. They're not getting serious, the government, on finding solutions to combating maternal death. And 91% of these, this report shows 91% of these maternal deaths were preventable. Okay, maternal deaths being the mother dies. And Democrats, they think that the answer to this, to 91% of maternal deaths being preventable, is to wait for it, more bureaucracy, create more bureaucracy, more programs, more Pritzker branded social experiments, and a sane doctor who's running for Congress in the 5th district has stepped up and said the quiet part out loud: remove J.B. Pritzker. Step 1 to saving moms and babies in Illinois. And, maternal death, with the technology and the knowledge that we have, it should be obsolete, or close to obsolete. We shouldn't be dealing with as many maternal deaths as we are here in the state of Illinois. But here we are. So step 1, this doctor who's running for Congress says, would be to remove J.B. Pritzker. If we want to save moms and babies, let's remove J.B. Pritzker. I didn't say it. Okay, this guy, Kim Layden, a doctor, is running for Congress in the 5th district. And I stumbled upon this Center Square article. And let me pull up more information here. Out of Chicago. Psychiatry. And he received his medical degree from Rush Medical College of Rush University Medical Center. And he's been practicing for more than 20 years. Okay, folks, when the medical professionals start saying that the governor is a public health emergency, it might be time to stop pretending everything's fine and letting JB get away with it. So let's dive into this story, shall we? So the Illinois Department of Public Health, and this is where I say we really need a change. And you guys know who I want for governor, Darren Bailey. We really need a change in that gubernatorial position, because a lot of these state agencies, controlled from top to bottom, they're controlled by Governor J.B. Pritzker and his political machine. Okay. So the IDPH, they put out a maternal mortality report. Okay. And as usual, the headline isn't the truth. No. The headline here is politically curated and equity padded narrative that they want you to absorb. They don't want you to actually know why the mortality is so high in women who are pregnant. Black women are more likely to die when pregnant and giving birth. And they say we need more equity initiatives because Black women are more likely to die in pregnancy. And they say that this report done by the IDPH, which is controlled from bottom to top by Governor J.B. Pritzker, they say that this reinforces this report, the governor's birth equity blueprint. Okay, so he's got this thing. It's called the Birth Equity Blueprint. Illinois government at its finest. Identify the tragedy, ignore the causes, blame society, propose a multi-billion-dollar blueprint, hire consultants, repeat. Okay, that is the Illinois government. And buried deep into this report, paragraph 3, below key points for the media of this report is the inconvenient truth. Nobody wants to talk about. They'll say, oh, it's racism. These Black women are going into these doctors' offices and hospitals, and they're not receiving the care because they're white doctors and they're racist. And we need more equity. We need more Black people in our healthcare institutions. That's what their whole equity padded narrative is about, getting more diversity and making hospitals less racist by hiring Black people. Okay, so, but there's an inconvenient truth here. The leading cause of pregnancy-related death in Illinois in 2021 through 2022 was substance abuse disorder, not racism. Okay, not a lack of access, not a lack of diversity in our healthcare institutions. No, not COVID. COVID didn't cause people to lose their pregnancies or lose their lives. Not climate change. No, none of that. It was substance use disorder. So drugs addiction. At the federal level, we see Donald Trump trying to combat that, using his power as commander-in-chief to try to stop the drugs from pouring in via the drug runner Venezuela. And you guys can think what you want. At least he's trying to do something about the drug problem, because we've got drugs everywhere, addiction, broken families, and broken systems. And there were 27 deaths recorded in that year due to substance use disorder. Okay, so 27 women died due to substance use disorder in pregnancy. So they died due to that substance abuse. And then that is 6 more than the next 2 causes combined. Okay, 6 more deaths than the next 2 causes combined. So 27 deaths because of the substance use disorder. The state wants you to focus on equity outcomes. They want you to focus on diversity hires, but they won't admit that the real crisis is moral, it's cultural, it's policy collapse created by fatherlessness, addiction, and government dependency. Okay, fatherless homes, addiction, government dependency, replacing your faith in God with a faith in government. This is what we need to focus on: fatherlessness, addiction, and government dependency. Okay, and they don't want you to focus on the real crisis here. They want you to focus on, the women are being treated differently because of their skin color in hospitals. That's not it. Okay. And it's funny how the government that has created this crisis, they're the ones who have created fatherless homes and government dependency, and they're the ones who have created addiction. I know from personal experience, the government pays for people to go get hooked on methadone, which is just another drug. And really what ultimately happens is methadone is designed to try to get you off hard drugs like opioids, heroin, fentanyl, things like that. And you go into the clinic every week and they give you taxpayer funded drugs. And it's never enough, okay, because you're constantly chasing a high. Methadone causes your teeth to fall out. It's really disturbing how we've addressed the drug crisis and addiction here in this state. Not all states do that, by the way. I'm not sure how many. I know Illinois does it, where it's taxpayer funded. You go to a clinic and you pick up your drugs. And this drug is designed to get you off the hard stuff. And then they lower your dosage every time you go. But what winds up happening is you're in a constant state of not being sober, and you're chasing a higher high. So the drug does not work. Study after study has shown that it actually causes addiction and fuels addiction. So what winds up happening is you get people hooked on methadone, and the methadone isn't high enough, and they're chasing a high still. You haven't changed the mentality of addiction or defeated the demon of addiction. You're just kind of replacing it. And, when you don't defeat the demon of addiction, and you replace it with another addiction, then they're just going to chase higher highs. Okay. That is what happens here in the state of Illinois. And they've created this crisis. And they market themselves as the solution. Hey, we got to have more equity in our hospitals, and we got to demand diversity and stop treating Black women differently. Okay. I don't think the treatment of Black people is any different in hospitals. Okay. It's 2025. What's going on here is the Black community has been targeted by the Democrats, and they have gotten them hooked on government dependency. Methadone, for example, is a government dependency. They depend on that methadone because they get hooked on it right away. And when you're dependent on that, you're not dependent on, a faith. You're not dependent on, something that's going to defeat the demon of addiction. And welfare programs, this is the new slavery. They get you hooked on government subsidies and money, and they get you hooked on that. And then you're not dependent on a provider. Say these women are not dependent on a provider. Their forefathers are pushed out of the home, and there are no fathers in these homes and in these Black families. It's really sad. And this is the same Democrat Party of the 1800s. They're racists, and they hate Black people. And it just looks different now than it did back in the 1800s when they were enslaving Black people. The new form of slavery is welfare dependency. Okay, so in enters Kim Layden. He's a Chicago psychiatrist running as a Republican in the 5th district. Yes, crazy. The 5th district is like a Democrat utopia. So brave soul, he is running as a Republican in the heart of like this Democrat empire. So he's a brave soul for doing that. He looked at the report and essentially said, and I'm looking at the Center Square article and some of his quotes, he essentially looked at this report and said, guys, maybe the issue here isn't systemic oppression or racism or a lack of diversity or equity. Maybe it's drug abuse, and maybe it's a lack of accountability. Maybe it's the government dependency and the government sort of incentivizing drug addiction. And that's what I think that the government does at this point. They incentivize you to be addicted to drugs. They get you addicted to drugs and keep you addicted to drugs. So shocking, right? That this doctor says this. His solution is, if you're getting government subsidies and you're planning to have a child, you got to do a drug screening. Okay. So I like this idea. This is accountability. The media, of course, is gasping. How dare a doctor suggest preventing drug-related infant deaths by preventing drug use? How dare he? You've got a lot of children who are dying in utero due to the substance use disorders, the substance abuse disorders. And, a way to combat this is, hey, if you're getting things like food stamps, if you're getting taxpayer dollars to pay for your groceries, you ought to not be, and you want a child, you ought to not be doing drugs. Let's screen you every time you come in for your snaps, right? If you're going to be government dependent, then you are going to have to be subject to the government when it comes to your privacy. Let's de-incentivize government dependency and taxpayer-funded lifestyles by having a little bit of accountability there. And you forfeit your privacy, you forfeit your freedoms when you depend on the taxpayer to fund your lifestyle. Okay, so Layden, he pushes further and he says his next proposal here is teen mothers can be trained and placed as daycare assistants, learn parenting skills, stabilize their lives, create community, and do it in a safe, sober environment. Pretty cool proposal there as well. I like the drug screening thing. Hey, if you're getting government subsidies, for example, SNAP, you should not be taking drugs if you're planning to get right. You shouldn't be taking drugs. Okay, it's illegal. Opioids, fentanyl, things like that. You shouldn't be taking drugs. And if you're planning on getting pregnant and having a child, then you shouldn't be taking drugs, and there should be drug screenings if you want to continue to live off of the taxpayer. Because we don't want you to abuse the taxpayer, get all of this money, turn around and use drugs. You're getting this money for your food, and then you're using your money to go get drugs, go get high, kill your babies. We're not doing that anymore as taxpayers. So the right thing to do here is to drug screen you. And then these teen moms, hey, let's get them the proper parenting skills so they understand how to stabilize their lives. We have daycare shortages, worker shortages, require them to go be daycare assistants. So this is called responsibility, folks, these proposals from this 5th congressional candidate. This is called breaking generational cycles, not institutionalizing them. And what we've done, the state of Illinois, we have institutionalized generational trauma and addiction. We have institutionalized it and made it impossible, because it's government subsidized and approved, to break those generational cycles. So 2-parent households are better than one. This is just something that has been the truth for thousands of years. This is what the candidate Layden says. He's running in the 5th. How dare he, quote 5,000 years of civilization. 2-parent families are better than 1-parent families. That has been the truth for thousands of years. Every sociologist, every pastor, every grandma knows that 2-parent households are better than one. And the left wants you to believe that the family structure doesn't matter. But you look at the numbers: single motherhood plus addiction plus government dependency equals disaster. And this is Pritzker's blueprint: single motherhood, addiction, government dependency. And it's more programs that make you dependent on the government. It's more programs that keep you addicted on drugs. It's more programs in welfare that keep you from wanting to have a man to provide for you as a single mother, because the government has replaced the provider in the home. So more everything except responsibility and strong families. That's what Pritzker's blueprint is. So Layden here, the candidate running in the 5th, says removing JB would be step one. Okay, because he controls these agencies who administer these programs. He controls DCFS. He controls the Illinois Department of Human Services, the Illinois Department of Public Health, who issue these studies that justify these exorbitant programs, these bureaucracy-laden programs. And, Layden's right. We've got to get rid of JB. I think that would be a start. I mean, we can try to change the legislature all we want, but really it starts with the tyrant that we've got to get out of there. Illinois doesn't have a maternal health crisis. Illinois has an accountability crisis. We need to make these women more accountable with things like drug screening, with things like, hey, you have to learn parenting skills through becoming a daycare assistant. We're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone there. There's shortages when it comes to daycare assistants. This governor shut down churches during COVID, but kept casinos open. He closed businesses, but expanded government bail handouts. Sorry. He crushes intact families with taxes, and he subsidizes addiction and chaos. Governor J.B. Pritzker's public health vision has always been the same. Government knows best. You're too dumb to manage your own life. That is their policy. And the truth is, Illinois moms don't need the government. They need more freedom, stronger families, and less addiction, and safer communities, and accountability. And Pritzker's answer here is this blueprint and press conferences and expensive programs that are centered on this ideology of government dependency. We can help you out of this. And they're not centered on results and obtaining the results we want, which is to get mothers off of the drugs. This is a huge thing in Illinois. And the more I'm seeing it, the more I'm encountering, my mom is fostering a little baby right now herself, born with drug addictions or born with addictions and things like that. It's really sad. But I have a friend, her daughter is fostering 2 babies, born addicted, treated for addiction, born with, developmental problems. The more in my life, I'm starting to encounter this more and more. So it is a huge problem. And I think specifically in the state of Illinois, it's probably a nationwide problem because, like I said, drugs coming in from Venezuela. We've got our president trying to combat that. But at a state level, we can do so much more to empower these women. Dr. Layden's answer here is to treat the addiction, strengthen families, and track patients responsibly. If you are addicted and you are getting government subsidies, you need to be held accountable and partake in a drug screening. Stop pretending the government is baby daddy. Okay. And we need to get the baby daddy government out of there and get daddies back in the homes. Pritzker's birth equity blueprint, and I'm going to, kind of encourage you to imagine what it contains. And here's what I imagine it contains: his birth equity blueprint. And I haven't read it, but one, they're going to declare an equity emergency. So at the behest of Governor J.B. Pritzker, the IDPH, they did this mortality rate data report. Okay. And they're going to use this report and they're going to say, well, there's a lack of equity in our hospitals, and we need to create a new task force to study this. And then they're going to hire 14 consultants on this task force from Chicago's political donor class. Okay. Have they donated Democrats? If the answer is yes, then we're going to stack them on this new task force as consultants. Then we're going to print a bunch of posters with buzzwords like equity on it. And then we're going to ignore the addiction data. Okay. We're going to blame Republicans, even though they don't really exist in the Chicago area where this is, more prevalent. Will County, Cook County, Lake County. We're going to blame Republicans, even though Republicans don't really exist in those areas or represent those areas. And then we're going to rename a building. And then we're going to spend millions of dollars. And then we're going to declare victory over this thing. And then we're going to repeat it the next election cycle. This is what they do. And every time the state has an actual crisis, whether that's an economic crisis, an educational crisis, which we have one, a moral crisis, a medical crisis, the Illinois Democrat solution is we need more messaging and we need to hire people to do it. We need more bureaucracy and we need to reward the people who donate to our political class and stack them on new task force to address this problem. You can't message your way out of dead moms and broken families. You can't do it. Okay. So, as Christians, we know that there is a simple truth that life is sacred. Children are a blessing. Parenthood is a calling, and it is not a government program. Okay. The Bible tells us, train up a child in the way he should go. It doesn't say call the Department of Equity and Wellness and hope for the best. Okay. Drug screening pregnant mothers, helping teen moms gain new skills, encouraging two-parent families, treating addiction seriously and not aiding that addiction through things like methadone clinics. This isn't harsh policy. This is compassionate. It's biblical. It's common sense. It's accountability. And if you're a woman struggling with addiction, screening isn't a punishment. It's intervention. It's a chance to save a life. And it's not trying to shame the mother. It's trying to save your life and your baby's life. Okay, so there should be drug screenings regularly. And if you fail those drug screenings, straight to jail. Okay, like that's neglect. You're neglecting in utero your baby. You should be held accountable for that. But the left equates accountability with cruelty. That's why we'll never see these policies, because they've replaced the family with the state. We don't do that here on the Conservative Cat Show. This is an American first, conservative first show. It's certainly not something that we advocate for under the Christian worldview. We don't replace the family with the state. Okay. And we don't equate accountability with cruelty. We don't do that. So, Layden, his second major reform here would be a one-stop case management, inpatient, outpatient follow-ups on all patients. So, you know what that's called? Efficiency, tracking, real healthcare. They come in addicted, you treat them for their addiction. They go out, hopefully not addicted anymore, but then there's outpatient services to keep them not addicted. And outpatient services shouldn't include giving people who are addicts drugs. Okay. Like you don't give an addict a drug. And you should be following up with your patients. You know, that's true healthcare. Instead of, you know, this word equity being thrown around in every document like it's some sort of good luck charm. We want real measurable results. Okay. And the Illinois Department of Public Health, they should have been doing this for decades ago. And we hear the same story over and over again. I know you know people in your life. I know plenty of people in my life. A woman, she gets addicted, falls through the cracks, misses appointments, never gets a follow-up care. She misses these appointments because she's addicted, and ends up in crisis and ends up dead. What we need to do is that make sure she doesn't fall through the cracks, get her to her appointments, and force her into drug screenings. Okay. You know, if you commit crimes, you forfeit your freedoms. And neglect, child neglect is a crime. It should be treated as such. So the state shrugs this off. They'll issue another press release. And I just think that Layden, he dropped this line in this article. It's great. He says, preventative medicine is job one. Staying off drugs, staying off alcohol, showing up to work, and doing something. Yes, that is preventative medicine. You know, getting people back into society, which is the opposite of what Springfield teaches. Springfield teaches you're a victim and there's nothing you can do and the government is going to fix it for you. That's what Springfield teaches. Layden teaches, hey, you have dignity, you've got responsibility, you have agency. We're going to support you, but we're not going to enable you. And this is how, you know, America used to talk about these things, how churches used to talk about these things, how families used to talk about these things. Like, hey, we're not going to enable you. Now you've got bureaucrats and politicians, and they're building entire empires on dependency. So the takeaway here is Illinois doesn't have a maternal mortality crisis because of racism or inequality or not equal treatment in hospitals. Okay, Illinois has a maternal mortality crisis because addiction is rampant. There are no fathers in the home anymore. Families are breaking. Government replaces faith and responsibility. And bureaucrats refuse to confront cultural rot, and the state treats the symptoms rather than the causes. So Dr. Layden here is right. Kimball Layden. Step one would be to remove Governor J.B. Pritzker, because as long as this governor sees every crisis as a political opportunity, nothing is going to change. And we really just need a family revival, spiritual revival, faith revival, cultural revival. That's something deeper that needs to happen in the state of Illinois. I don't know if it ever will, but a good step one would be to remove Governor J.B. Pritzker so we can get some of these people out of these agencies that he controls. So No blueprints, no task force, no Democrat talking points. Illinois mothers deserve truth. They deserve better. Children deserve better. Illinois families deserve a government that values responsibility, sobriety, and life. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to come back because I want to talk about how Illinois hasn't adopted the no tax on tips provision of the One Big Beautiful Bill. This is important. How does that affect you if you are a tipped employee here in the state? I'll be right back. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, where we deal with the truth, not talking points. I'm your host, Kat, and today we're putting a spotlight on something the abortion industry wants to keep you in the dark about: abortion pills. What are they? How do they work? And how are they hurting women? Let's talk about the facts. Over 54% of abortions in America are now done using chemical abortion pills. That number is climbing fast. Why? Because it's easier, it's cheaper, and it's quieter. But here's what they won't tell you. Abortion pills come with a serious risk. The process is two drugs: mifepristone, which actually ends the pregnancy, and misoprostol, which forces the body to expel the baby. Sounds simple, right? It's not. According to the FDA, 4,200 serious adverse events have been reported, including 28 deaths since 2000, the year 2000. And those are just the official numbers. In 2021, there was a peer-reviewed study that found that ER visits after chemical abortions increased by over 500% between 2002 and 2015. And here's the kicker. Many of these cases are coded as miscarriages, and they're coded as miscarriages because women don't, or they can't, tell the hospital what actually happened and that they actually took these pills. That means the real damage, probably much worse. So way more than 4,200 adverse events since 2000. Now brace yourself. The Biden administration made it to where these pills were accessible by the mail with no person exam, no ultrasound, and no guarantee that the pregnancy had to be an ectopic pregnancy. So, I mean, you could be taking these in your 6 months, 7 months, 8 months along. And it's not, this could be deadly if you take it when it's not an ectopic pregnancy. Women are being told to take these powerful drugs and there's zero medical supervision. That's not healthcare. It's called negligence. It's medical negligence. And we're seeing heartbreaking stories about all these women who are bleeding alone in dorm rooms, bathrooms, parking lots, or even in their own cars in the parking lot. Clinics like Planned Parenthood calls this empowerment and empowering, but tell me how it's empowering to hand a teenager a handful of pills and say, good luck. The emotional fallout is just as real, by the way. There's a physical risk, but there's an emotional risk as well. Women reported feeling abandoned, traumatized, and even haunted by what they've done, especially when they see the tiny, tiny body of their baby passing and passing that. It's traumatizing, and nobody tells them that they're going to see the tiny baby in the pamphlet. So here's the truth, the plain and simple truth. Abortion pills are not safe. They're not kind, and they're not empowering. They actually hurt women, and they silence their pain by taking these chemical abortion pills, and they protect an industry by keeping the abortion in the dark. And it doesn't do anything to protect the individual at all. I'm Kat, and this has been Conservative Clips, Cat Clips, reminding you that real healthcare, it doesn't kill people, and real healthcare means empowering women and supporting women, not selling them lies in a bottle. Stay alert, stay bold, and always choose light. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is the Conservative Cat Show, where the coffee is strong, the claws are sharp, and the truth is served hotter than deep dish. The deep dish that Pritzker probably orders to his hotel room at 2 a.m. when nobody's watching. So welcome, America First Patriots. We are going to be talking about something today that has got everybody really upset. No tax on tips not being adopted by the state of Illinois. So we're not talking about political tips, stock tips. Here's how to escape Illinois tips. No. We're talking about the money that waitresses, bartenders, delivery drivers, nail techs, everybody in the service community or service economy brings home from an actual human interaction. So tips shouldn't be viewed as wages. Okay, these are kind of like I would say thank yous. Okay, that's how I view tips as here's a tip for a human interaction. You did a great job. You went above and beyond. Here's a tip. Okay, that's how I view tips. So Trump said no tax on tips at a federal level. We know this. Illinois said hold my beer. I'll tax that beer and then I'll tax the tip of the waitress who served that beer. So Illinois is not adopting the federal no tax on tips rule. According to an article from the Center Square, it lays it out. Workers in Illinois will still owe state income tax on tips, even though the feds won't tax those tips anymore. So today we are breaking it down. I'm going to defend why no tax on tips is morally right. It's pro-worker, it's pro-freedom position. But I am going to be fair and say that, hey, there are legitimate points about carve-outs and, broad tax reform not being implemented. Rather, there's carve-outs at a federal level. There have been broad tax reform measures in the One Big Beautiful Bill. This was just specific to the tipped industry. And I think that it's morally right. And I think that it's pro-worker and pro-freedom position. So I like the no tax on tips provision at the federal level. But I want to get into it. So why did Donald Trump do this? The no tax on tips federal provision, the One Big Beautiful Bill, it's in there. It's because he believes in America, real America, okay, not boardroom America. During COVID, especially, we had kind of an era where everybody kind of works from home. They're kind of like a social media marketing person, and like there's no tangible product or service that people are providing anymore. Blue collar America is dying, okay, and Donald Trump wants to revive it. How do you revive it? So the people who are working double shift, people who serve, and they survive on leftover breadsticks. I was that girl, surviving on, what the cooks would cook for me at the end of my shift. Okay. There are people out there who survive on leftover breadsticks. Okay. People can make good money in the service industry. I'm not saying that $1,000 on Saturday night, but it's because they busted their tails serving 200 people and actually providing a service. Okay. These workers, they are hammered by inflation, particularly wage stagnation and cost of living. Okay. And Donald Trump knew this. The government taxes your tips, and taxing your tips is not like taxing a salary. Taxing your tips is taxing your grind. And Donald Trump saw this, and he removed taxes from tips to incentivize blue collar work. Okay. You see, he's reading the cards here. And he's seeing that, hey, during COVID, a lot of this stuff went obsolete. It's not as prevalent. People prefer, remote jobs that kind of create a product or they don't create a product or service, something tangible. They're like consultants and, they do silly things, that aren't what make America hum. Okay. So, essentially what Donald Trump did with the no tax on tips is more so, hey, you don't need a gender studies degree. You can go make money, bartending, waiting tables, working in hospitality, Uber Eats, and you can keep what you earn. You don't need a $120,000 sociology or psychology degree from U of I. You can make a living on providing and doing honest work. Okay. And, COVID really decimated honest work. And this is just America First economic policy. It rewards effort, not paperwork or pencil pushing. It rewards the hustle. It rewards human interactions and connections. It rewards service, not government dependence. So the federal government said, keep your tips. They are yours. And Illinois is saying, we hear you, federal government, but no, we're not going to do that. We are going to continue to tax tips at a state level. So Illinois didn't accidentally fail to, adopt the no tax on tips. They purposely chose not to adopt the no tax on tips. Okay. Manish Bhatt, he's quoted in the Center Square, and he explains it like this: Illinois doesn't have to automatically conform to the federal taxable income definitions because, unlike some other states, Illinois can say, thanks, but we still want the money, because they have their own like income definitions, taxable income definitions. So Illinois is addicted to taxation, and they're addicted to taxation, much like Governor J.B. Pritzker's obviously has got to be addicted to buffet hours. But Illinois is the highest tax state as in the country. I mean, property tax burden's highest in America, sales tax through the roof, gas taxes. And now, of course, they don't want to adopt the federal tax provision, but no tax on tips provision, but they want to tax all income, including tips, when the federal government says you shouldn't have to pay those taxes. So the government sees your tip when you're, waitressing, and they see it like a raccoon sees an open garbage can. They dive head first, and they do it without hesitation. So here's where I want to be fair, okay, about the no tax on tip provision. Now, a lot of people, conservatives, don't even really like this policy, and it's because it's a carve out. Now, I told you my reason why I like this carve out, because of had we not gone through COVID pandemic, I would be probably more adversarial to the no tax on tips provision, because I am pro broad tax reform, bringing down taxes for everybody. Not taxing the poor and taxing the rich. This is sort of like a liberal ideal. Okay. And not that, waitresses are poor. I made very good money waitressing. But I think his approach here was to remedy what we saw in COVID, where a lot of these blue collar jobs were decimated. Where people want to provide a product and service. He wants to incentivize that again. Okay, so it's strategic. But Manish Bhatt with the Tax Foundation says that carve-outs are wrong, and it can mess up the tax system. Yeah, you when we talk about equality, and that's why I same thing. Like, I hate when liberals say tax the rich more. No, everybody should pay a flat tax rate, similar to that of a tithe, right? The Bible doesn't demand that rich people pay more. The Bible says 10%, right? That's your tithe. And doesn't matter if you're making 30,000, 300,000. Everybody's the same. And Manish Bhatt, he gives an example. Quote in the Center Square, he says, a bank teller making $30,000 and a waiter making $30,000 shouldn't necessarily face different tax burdens because one gets tips and the other gets a salary. Okay, he warns that carve-outs distort incentives. They push employers to restructure pay. And then they confuse workers because now it's a state, you have to file your state income. You have to still track your tips because the state's going to tax you on those tips. And it's confusing workers, and they think that their tips aren't taxable because, hey, they're not taxable at a federal level, but they're still taxable at a state level. There's a lot of things wrong with this. You've got states who aren't opting into the no tax on tips zone. Now you're going to make people susceptible to, IRS arrests or problems with the IRS. You can have mistakes on your filings. And workers are going to have to probably hire tax professionals, perhaps. So it kind of really screws over people, the no tax on tips thing in blue states. You're really screwed if you're in a blue state when it comes to the no tax on tips thing. So all are reasonable points here that, the no tax on tip provision kind of sucks. Reasonable points. But like I said, broad tax reform is wonderful. Lower taxes for everyone. Yes, that is always going to be the better policy. But we are at a point now, and COVID was so unprecedented, and we've got to do something to bring that blue collar work and to incentivize that blue collar work again. And Illinois is never going to cut taxes. They're never going to lower taxes for everyone. So why not lower taxes for some? A lot of like red Republicans or these deep red Republicans are really take issue with the no tax on tips because it's kind of like a carve out, and it's kind of like disproportionate. It's like a liberal ideal where you tax the rich, but rather than taxing the rich, you cut taxes for the poor. And Republicans don't really like that much. I like it. I'm Gen Z because I grew up, and I'm also or was a service worker, so kind of biased. But my adult life started during COVID, so I see this a little bit differently. Illinois is never going to lower taxes across the board. The Tax Foundation speaks from a world, I think, of where politicians want simplicity and fairness. And I want that too, but this is reality. Okay. Illinois politicians, they speak from a world where Pritzker needs billions for his new programs, new departments, new regulations, new committees, new diversity audits, new grant programs to study the effects of previous grant programs. Okay. So we live in that world. And broad tax reform, yes, is better in theory, but Illinois has no intention of doing that. The federal government really has no intention of doing that. So I don't see a problem with providing some relief for some people. A carve out is only a bad idea when the government plans to leave everyone else alone. Okay. But Illinois doesn't plan to leave everyone else alone. Illinois taxes everything. They tax like your breathing, your walking, your talking, your thoughts, if they could measure them. Okay. That's Illinois. And I think we're at a point right now, like, even if like Trump is lowering some taxes for some people, some workers who are scraping by, then yeah, I don't think a carve out's bad, because it's gotten that bad, specifically in blue states. And this would have really helped blue state people. But now Illinois is not adopting that. So it's really going to suck for people who live in blue states. And you're going to have to hire a professional to do your taxes. You're going to have to avoid IRS discrepancies and issues and mistakes. So, and really we have to get at why Donald Trump did this. It's because he's wanting to reward the people who have been forgotten by both political parties for generations: service workers, blue collar workers, people who show up first, or they're the last to leave. They're at the mercy of inflation, the most at the mercy of inflation, least likely to get raises, most likely to get taxed on irregular income. So like, we shouldn't even view taxes or tips as income because it's so irregular. And most people weren't reporting their cash tips anyway before. Most people didn't do that before, the no tax on tips. This was just kind of, solidifying and tips are different than regular wages, and tips aren't guaranteed. They fluctuate. Tips depend on human behavior. And when the government taxes tips, they're taxing kind of uncertainty, and that's immoral. Here's what the Tax Foundation is arguing from a policy textbook. They're arguing from a policy textbook and the way it should be. And yes, we should have broad reform, but we're arguing, and I'm arguing from real life. Okay. They say two workers with the same income shouldn't pay different taxes. And ideally, yes. But there's a truth here. A worker who earns $30,000 in tips works harder for that money than the worker who has $30,000 in a salary, and they're guaranteed that salary. $30,000 in tips, that's not guaranteed. Okay. And the salary is guaranteed, tips are earned. And, guiding a blind guy to a table, which I've done before in the service industry, apologizing, 19 times because of a kitchen delay that you didn't cause, walking 8 miles in a night on the restaurant floor, carrying trays and heavier than your student loan bill. And I've carried heavy trays. I had cocktail. I actually left Red Lobster. I've worked at a few different restaurants, but I left Red Lobster after about a day because I had cocktail pour all over my face, and the Red Lobster trays, super heavy. And I just couldn't carry them. And I was like, this isn't worth it. I might as well go work at like a basket place where they like serve bar food and make just as much, if not more, because of the drinking. Not a lot of people go to Red Lobster to get hammered. And I wanted to go where people were drinking because they just tend to give you your money, their money. So, but, waiting on people who are hangry, irritable, drunk, all three, they work harder and they're working for a reward. And, Donald Trump wants to reward that hustle. He wants to reward the service, reward work ethic, and reward the backbone of America, which is blue collar work. And, I view it more as justice for what has gone on. It's probably going to be, repealed once a new administration comes in. So the article says here that Illinois is worried workers won't remember to add their tips back in onto the state return, which I'm worried about that too. Workers might accidentally keep their money and they might not give it to the government like the state demands, and that's going to cause a loss of revenue for the state. And Illinois, of course, isn't worried about taxpayers. Illinois is worried about the government and the revenue. They don't want to lose that revenue from the taxes and the tips. But yeah, I think the no tax on tips is win. We got to take wins where we can get them. Christian worldview, I want to bring this in biblically. The scripture says the laborer is worthy of his wages, not the laborer is worthy of his wages minus whatever cut the government demands. Okay. Tips are a direct reflection of service. It's a gift, almost a blessing, an expression of gratitude from one individual to another. And taxing a tip is the government inserting itself between that relationship and between that moment of gratitude. And I don't like that. It's the state saying, hey, I saw you did a good job and I want part of your reward. Okay. And that's not only economically wrong, it's morally wrong. And taxing tips. I also think property taxes are morally wrong. You shouldn't have to pay taxes on something that you own or property. We have property rights in this country. We shouldn't have to pay taxes on it. So, broad tax reform, yes, that'd be better policy. But Illinois is never going to do broad tax reform. Trump is right. No tax on tips is a great incentive for blue collar work. And that's really what I think the reason behind the no tax on tips is to try to bring back blue collar work after the pandemic decimated it, made it obsolete. Illinois is punishing its own service workers by refusing to adopt this. Taxing tips is an attack on work ethic, dignity, and it's government inserting itself between this moment of gratitude. And I think that's morally wrong. Elections matter. This is why election matters. Leadership matters because, people at the state level could fight this. But we have a bunch of Democrats who won't because they haven't met a tax that they didn't like. So, yeah, the people who serve us deserve to keep what they earn. Bottom line, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Florida is so much better. Yes. It really sucks for blue states because now you're going to be in trouble with the IRS potentially. You might have to hire somebody to add those state tax or those tips back into your income. So that way you get taxed on them at a state level, complicates things, subjects you to potential IRS problems and, Then, not only that, the state is going to use that as justification of they're going to say, hey, we've lost revenue because people aren't adding their tips back in for the state level when they're filing their taxes. And then they're going to justify, more people at the IRS, more people at the state level to try to combat the fraud. They're not doing it maliciously. It's just that people are confused because there's two different income taxing policies. So they're going to use it as justification. Well, we've lost all this revenue, so now we have to implement a new tax. I could foresee Illinois doing that to try to make up that loss of revenue, or we have to create an agency to try to encourage people to include tips in their income at a state level so we can tax it at a state level, and we're going to hire a bunch of people to do it. And that's going to cost more taxpayer money. So yeah, all the way around terrible. Hit that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I've got one more story here. Robert Garcia, Representative Robert Garcia, according to him, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, he's going to ensure that we get justice for communities. This is in response to the crimes he claims that are being perpetrated by the government and by ICE, and that he's going to get justice for his communities because there's crime being perpetrated by the government, the federal government. However, he didn't say anything here in this clip that I'm going to play for you about the people who are breaking federal immigration laws. But that's likely because this rant was in response to defend those types of people. So he didn't talk about the people committing breaking federal immigration laws. He didn't talk about those crimes. He's defending those people, despite those people being a threat to Americans in American communities. Take a listen here to Robert Garcia, Representative Robert Garcia. Here we go.
We, of course, are committed to holding agencies accountable to stop any sort of crimes and attacks on our Constitution. Now, today we're going to hear from elected leaders, leading experts on our immigration system, labor leaders, business owners, faith leaders, educators, and most importantly, the community. We're going to hear about violations of our rights and crimes being committed by our own government. And our message is clear. Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, we are watching you, and we're going to ensure that we get justice for our communities. We will hold those that are breaking our Constitution and denying due process accountable. Now, the American people are also watching. In this country, no one is above the law, and the Constitution protects everyone. The Constitution clearly states that due process is afforded to all people, not just U.S. citizens, but non-citizens and others alike. All people in this country are afforded due process in our Constitution. Now, we've worked tirelessly to free innocent people, of course, who've been sent to different detention centers with no due process. Some of us here even traveled to El Salvador to highlight the injustice that was happening there to so many people that were sent to one of the worst prisons on earth. And we'll continue to stand up to this administration who are revoking even legal status for members of our community. We know that this is a nation of immigrants, and Donald Trump is attacking the very identity of our country. Right now, whether you are documented or not, whether you are seeking asylum at our border, or you have been here for decades, you could be targeted by this administration. Let me just finally, before I turn this over to the mayor, I just want to say this is also very personal, not just for me, but for so many of us that are immigrants ourselves. I came to the U.S. when I was a young child. I received the great privilege of becoming a U.S. citizen in my early 20s. I spent most of my life not knowing if I would have a future in this country. I spent my college years looking at my classmates in the same classrooms, knowing that they had a future of work, while I was unsure what my future would look like as someone that was not fully documented as a citizen. And I tell people that when I raised my right hand to become a U.S. citizen, that was the proudest day of my life. I'm grateful to this country. I'm grateful to the opportunity that it provides to those that seek opportunity, with their families. And every single person in this country who works hard, who's doing right by our laws, should have the same opportunity that they gave to me and to my family.
All right, what a total clown show that was. Does he really think he's going to scare them into stopping deportations? That's what I don't get about these people. Like, you really think that you're going to be like scare Donald Trump, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem into doing what you want? Okay. This was just a show to appease the radical left mob, in my opinion. How exactly will he get justice for these foreign nationals, and how will he hold these authorities accountable? Because the last time I checked, he has zero power to do that, this representative. But that's neither here nor there. According to ABC7, almost 6 months after the immigration raids have began in Los Angeles, congressional Democrats held a field hearing to bring accountability, help families locate their loved ones, and to highlight what they call a majority of unlawful detentions by President Donald Trump's administration. Okay, so they held this little meeting. They're trying to help families locate their loved ones, and they're saying that these are majority unlawful detentions. Not true. Judge signs off on these deportation orders. They go, they pick them up, they ship them back to where they came from. Okay, lawful orders. Okay, these are non-citizens. How much due process do you really want? Okay, you had a deportation order drafted up. They say that they're unlawful, majority unlawful detentions. Mayor Karen Bass and Representative Robert Garcia led a march before that hearing. So he was in the hearing there. They led a march in downtown Los Angeles, and they gathered up testimony from people impacted by immigration enforcement, a bunch of sob stories. And they're saying, we're going to bring accountability to the authorities. You have no power to do that. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. It's truly pathetic. I wish these people would fight for American citizens like they do for illegals, but I can only dream. So here's the quote. In this county, no one is above the law, and the Constitution protects everybody. The Constitution clearly states due process is afforded to all people, not just U.S. citizens. Robert Garcia said he is a ranking member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Look, last I checked, foreign nationals don't have a right to be here. They aren't like our own American citizens. If you commit a felony, you can't have a gun anymore. Okay, so you don't have a right to be here. You don't have a right to due process. If our own American citizens, once they commit felonies, don't get a right to their Second Amendment. Okay, so it's so disingenuous and deranged that they pretend ICE is going after, by the way, American citizens. They're not doing that. Give me just one instance where that has happened. No Democrat has been able to do that. Because, again, these are falsehoods. They are saying that they're largely unlawful detentions. That's not true. Here's another quote from Karen Bass. We want to establish a record because when political winds change, we want to hold those people accountable, she said during the rally before the hearing. We want transparency and accountability for all the egregious unconstitutional acts that are taking place. Okay. Look, this is more of the same BS from these leftists who are promising to go after people because they disagree with them politically. Once the political winds change, if midterms change, they're going to go after them. And they are going after people when leftists are in office. Okay. And they're going after the people who are just simply enforcing the law. And you can't make up this level of insanity. They are all about revenge. This is the party of revenge. And again, maybe, just maybe, if these officials were to defend you and me like this and not foreigners, like I would hear them out and not completely dismiss them and chalk it all up to insanity. But they never go and defend you like you and me like this. They do when it comes to foreigners. And, you know, I don't think you needed another reason. This is reason number 1 million. That these people will never represent you. I don't think that you were questioning that, but they're never going to represent you. And this just proves to you that they're never going to represent you. And it's disappointing, but it's unsurprising. I wanted to share that clip. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. Bye-bye. Love you so much. We'll talk again soon.